Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Our topic for today is navigating the Knowledge Center and help documents. Just a few technical announcements before we begin. If you experience any technical difficulties, please drop and reconnect, as that usually resolves any issues. Also, we ask you to place your questions in the question window as they arise, and we will answer them toward the end of the presentation. And finally, a recording of this webinar will be posted in the Knowledge Center in about a week's time, just in case you want to view it again or have someone else in your team who would like to learn more about this topic. My name is Kimberly Feeser, and I'm part of the Unanet Customer Success Management team. And your Customer Success Manager is your primary point of contact within Unanet post-implementation. Our role at Unanet is to help our customers achieve their desired outcomes with Unanet software. We do this by keeping customers informed about current features and functionalities, as well as providing updates on new releases and updates. If you would like to speak to your Customer Success Manager, please contact them directly, or you can contact our central email at csm@unanet.com. Today, we're very happy to have Ellen Craig, Vice President of Operations Design, here with us to present today's topic. Ellen is going to review two incredibly valuable Unanet customer resources, the Knowledge Center and Help documents. She will highlight their similarities and differences. She will also provide us with tips for searching. And finally, she's going to give us an overview of top pages and topics for Unanet customers. Welcome, Ellen. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, thank you, Kim. So welcome, everybody. As Kim mentioned, we are going to review the KC and the help documentation. And what we're going to cover today is a number of items. We're going to cover an overview of the KC, an overview of the help, some differences between the two, how to share information from the KC, how to share information from the help. We're going to go through several popular topics in the KC. We might be a little bit heavy on the KC today compared to the help, but we are going to go into the help a bit as well. Everything we cover today, every link that you see will be available to you. It's actually available to you now. It's public in the KC, but it will be in the content that Kim and the Customer Success Management team shares with you. So anything you see today, you will have that link at the end of this webinar when the PowerPoint is shared with you, because the link to that contains the page with all the links in it will be available to you in that PowerPoint. So we're going to go ahead and get started now. We have these two tools, the KC, the Knowledge Center, kc.unanet.com or knowledgecenter.unanet.com, and the help, which has a few different links, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We do try to do mutual linking between the two systems. So there will be links to the KC from the help and to the help from the KC. We strive not to duplicate content. So we try not to have a process guide in the KC and in the help, because we try to have unique information in either system. What is the KC? So on my screen, you should see here we have a table which describes the KC and the help. The KC is a resource that contains best practices, frequently asked questions, videos, our customer success webinars. We tend in the KC to address business needs that may pull together multiple pages from the help and the KC, and we reference those on the page. We tend in the KC to be more process related, and we tend to have a little less technical detail. We leave that to the help documentation, which does a fabulous job of technical detail. In terms of updates to the KC, we are in there very actively. We are updating and creating content on a weekly basis, and we share that with you, our customers, in our newsletter. Anything that's new or anything we want to highlight, we share that with you in the newsletter. The tool that we use for the KC is Confluence. It's an Atlassian product, and One important thing to be aware of in the KC is that it is not versioned. It's always on the most current version of Unanet. So we're addressing what we have in the product today. So that's a high-level overview of the KC. Let's talk about the help for a moment. So the help is in a different tool. It's RoboHelp. It's detailed technical documentation. So it covers every aspect of every field in Unanet, as well as some related processes, but it tends to be more oriented towards the technical detail of what a field is doing or what an import requires, or formats that will result out of an export, or so forth. It's very technical. And so the KC and the help are a very nice marriage, because the KC is more process related, pulling together many of the technical aspects that are so well documented in the help. As far as where to find the help, of course, in your Unanet system, you can click in the upper right on the help link, and it will take you, it might look something like this link that I'm hovering over here. This will take you to, whatever version of Unanet you're on, if on-premise, or your particular company's cloud version of the documentation. We also have a generic help, which is always pointing towards the current help, which is version 10.3 today, 10.3.12 or something like that, I can't remember. For older versions of the help, we have all of that stored on support.unanet.com, and for older supported versions. And of course, if you are using an older version like a 10.0 or a 10.1 or maybe even 9.6, please do upgrade. Please do upgrade or migrate your system to the most version. But if you are using that older one, you can always find it within your Unanet instance itself in the upper right corner under help. And here's an example of an older version of the help, which is pointing to that initial release of Financials 10.0. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the KC now. I'm going to actually go over to kc.unanet.com. And this is our landing page here. So we designed the KC as both browsable and searchable. So from a browsing perspective, in the left menu here, you can see here's our hierarchy of topics. And there's also a search box in the upper right. So you can either browse or search. Now, many knowledge bases do not have a browsable hierarchy. They just have searching. And there's pros and cons of both. We decided we did want browsing capabilities in a hierarchy. So with that comes, of course, the consideration that some topics, some pages may be very appropriately placed in actually two different areas. So for example, I might have a page, and I do have a page called Reimbursing Employees for Expenses. That might go either in accounts payable or it might go in expenses. It would be appropriately placed in either section. So that's something to keep in mind if you're browsing, that it might be in another section. We had, of course, to choose one, but that's where searching might come into place if you're trying to find a certain topic. Searchable. So let's search for something. I'm in the KC. I'm in the upper right corner search field, and I'm going to search on, maybe I want to learn about how to better set up overtime in my system. So I'm going to search on overtime, and I get a bunch of results here pertaining to overtime, best practices for overtime, overtime authorization, straight time overtime for salaried folks, uncompensated overtime, a whole bunch of information, 24 results in all, and I can choose the one that I think most applies to my situation. I will also say, and again, all of these links are available to you in the KC page that's going to be provided, so don't worry too much about the addresses. Confluence, which again is the tool we use to host our knowledge base, our knowledge center, Confluence has a great page on some search syntax tools. So, using ands or ors or not. So this link is really helpful too. So keep this in mind, chalk, not cheese, chalk and cheese. Maybe it's expense and reimbursable, or expense but not reimbursable. You can use all of those terms for your searching. And this is a confluence.atlassian.com link, and it is available to you in that page that we will be sharing with you. Another thing I'd like to point out about the KC is that in the upper left here, we have this, I think it's variously called the hamburger icon, etc. But anyway, these three horizontal lines. And if you ever want, these link you to other places such as the Unanet commercial website, our Unanet support website, which has all kinds of things like your per diem files, or older versions of the documentation, or many, many things in the support site. And then also here's a nice link to the current version of the help, which of course you don't necessarily need because you have it in your Unanet system. This space directory, typically you're going to spend most of your time in the Knowledge Center space, but our customers do have access to the Keystone space, where we have other videos and some end user e-learning activities. So these can be helpful. They're usually used by our Keystone customers who are implementing, but any of our customers may benefit from these Keystone videos. Okay, we're going to turn from the KC just for a few moments, and we're going to talk about the help. So I'm going over here to the current help, and I know it's current because it says current, and it also tells me I'm in 10.3, which we know is the current version of the Unanet help, or Unanet product, the most up-to-date, latest and greatest, best version of Unanet. You'll notice that the help is also browsable and searchable. So there's a hierarchy over here, and there's also a search box in the upper right. I really like to point out this Unanet menu section of the help documentation. It's really powerful. It looks like your dashboards, okay? So if you're looking at the Unanet product, you'll notice that it is all the same dashboards. And if I go, for example, to admin setup, well, here are all the items from admin setup. You know, in the same hierarchy, I am accustomed to seeing it in the product, but now in the help. So I can look at, you know, how to set up project statuses or project note types. So this is a really nice organization, hierarchical organization of the functionality in the help documentation. I could go to like project statuses and learn about project statuses. And of course I can search. So if I search, let's use that same search term of overtime. Now I get less information specific to overtime, but more into the details. Like I need pay codes for overtime, and I'm going to need people to charge in timesheets for overtime. And well, if it's straight time overtime for salaried people, dilution is going to be involved, and all kind of that kind of stuff. So this is the more granular information about overtime. Whereas if I want to set up overtime, I'm probably going to go to the KC because that's going to pull all of it together, all of that detailed information together. Okay, now we're going to talk about sharing information from the KC and the help. So we're going to go back to the help, the KC here. So there's a few different ways you can share information. So let's go back to that same example of overtime. Here's my best practices for handling time and a half overtime and double time in Unanet. And let's say I love this link. I want to share it with my business partner. I want to share it with my finance director or what have you. One way to share it is via a link. We recommend, while you could choose the link from the URL, if this title were ever to change, it would delay you a little bit. You would still be able to get to the page, but you would have to click on 2 links. So we really recommend use this link to page option from the 3 dots on every page in the KC. So link to page, and then you can use this tiny link, which is automatically highlighted for you. And you can paste that into, you know, the email that you're using or wherever your Word document, whatever you're pasting that into, and that takes you to the page that you wanted to link to. You can also download the content as either a PDF or a Word document. So that's a great option as well. Some of our clients like to download multiple pages as one PDF. So like, for example, our AR guide, if I go here, you can see this is multiple pages. We have the same thing for an AP guide. Maybe I don't want to have to click on this 3 dots for every single page I see here. That's going to be a hassle. So there is a way where you can download all of these as one nice, cleanly packaged PDF, and that's down in Space Tools under content tools. And we have instructions for you in the content that we're going to be sending to you. So that's a really nice way. We often find that our financials customers, they want to print out the AP guide and just have it sitting on their desk. So they do this. They use the space tools, content tools, export feature to export just the pages that they want. And then they print them out and have them sitting on their desk for when they're doing AP or AR or what have you. Okay, so that's how to share information from the KC, the link or the PDF or the Word doc or multiple pages into one PDF. So lots of options from the KC. From the help, if we go back to the help here, let's say I love this page about setting up pay codes. I can share this, definitely not by using the address bar, okay, because this is always just going to be the generic help URL. So the way to share a page out of the help is to right-click on the search result or page in the help that you want to share, and to choose copy link address. And then when you paste that into a tab, it takes you right there, and you can see the address is appropriately specific to pay codes now. Okay, so again, right-clicking, copy the link address, and then pasting it wherever you need to paste it, in email or what have you. Okay, we're now going to go into the KC, and we're going to look at some really popular examples from the KC. So let me close some of these tabs we don't need. And again, you're going to have all of this content available to you. So these are some popular topics. Now you'll notice that, for example, overtime, the one that we were just looking at, has 4 different links to the help documentation: pay codes, employee type, dilution. So we'll just look at that again as our initial example. So here's the page on overtime, and it has lots of information for us on how to set up. And if we go down here, then all of the help doc information is available to us here. We also have a link to the KC to authorization for overtime if that's something that you require. So anything related is down here. Also, mobile timesheets, a very popular topic in Unanet. We have a page in the KC which talks about some best practices. Maybe you want your folks, your employees, to be able to have an icon on their smartphone available to them that takes them right into their Unanet timesheet. So we cover that here, and we have a link to the help docs here, which tells you the specific technical details of mobile information. Okay, another great example of a KC topic is reimbursing employee expenses. So you can see from this screen that it folds in a whole bunch of other KC and help doc pages. A lot of information. Obviously, we don't have time to click on every one of these links on the right, and we're not going to. We're just going to focus on some of these examples in the KC on the left. But if we go over to that page, methods for reimbursing employee expenses, all of that information is down here. So related to, maybe I'm reimbursing them because they're vendors, or I want to do bulk vendor payment creation, or what have you. All of that additional information is here. So we can click here versus having to include it on the same page, same information on the same page. Okay, so again, one example of pulling multiple help and KC pages in is this reimbursing employee expenses. Similar topic, how to use Unanet to pay employee wages. So this includes 4 KC pages. And also I'll mention that most of these examples that we're looking at today are all very popular. So they were chosen because they're powerful and popular topics in the KC. So if we go over to paying employee wages with Unanet Financials, it talks about the different methods, perhaps an external payroll provider, perhaps through Unanet accounts payable, and of course, as always, as you're seeing at the bottom, links to related pages, whether in this case all in the KC, but could be in the help as well. Okay, one of our most popular links in the KC is refreshable web queries. So just briefly, because we don't have a lot of time to go into all of these topics, but briefly, what is a refreshable web query? Probably many of you know, but essentially a refreshable web query is a Microsoft Excel functionality, which when used in conjunction with Unanet allows you to have essentially live data in your Excel spreadsheet. Well, when you click refresh in Excel, it updates it automatically based on what's in Unanet. So this saves you from having to regularly paste into Excel. Instead, you can just have the data refresh in Excel. And it also allows you to have multiple formats of reports and data presentation in Excel. So this is a super powerful, super popular page called Refreshable Web Queries. And if we go over there, this outlines how to create the web query, any troubleshooting. I'm going to scroll quickly down to the bottom. Any troubleshooting related to web queries, and a couple links at the bottom which take you to reports, because Excel web queries, when used in conjunction with Unanet, are heavily based on Unanet reporting. So it links us over to the reports section of the help documentation, as well as those reports need to be either saved or shared. So it links us to the KC section about pushing reports via saving or sharing. Okay, so super powerful functionality and popular link in the KC is refreshable web queries. The next topic that we're going to cover is how do I correct or negate an expense amount? So this is also very useful. A lot of people find this powerful, and I'll show you why. If we open up this link, editing expense amounts or negating them, the method by which you will do that is highly dependent upon the status of that expense. So if that expense is simply in use and being edited, it's very simple, obviously, to correct or negate that expense. However, if it's been locked or extracted, it's a little more complicated. And if it's actually been through a financials post, it's a little more complicated. So this page covers what do I do based on what status that expense is in. So very powerful page, very powerful content, and many contributions to this page have been made over the past year, I'd say, but especially by our consulting team. If I scroll quickly down to the bottom, we get to the additional information related to editing those expenses. So whether via import or generic working with expense information or setup of expense types. Okay, so that's another really popular one. And by the way, these are not in any order of popularity. We actually don't have those statistics overall. We see them by week or by month, but these are just overall the most popular, powerful ones. This quick video on timesheet entry, this continues after 5 years to be one of the top sellers. I think that some of our customers will use it for training their employees when they first launch. So it's a very simple page, but it has a video on it. And I'm not going to click play, but it talks us through creating a timesheet in Unanet. Some of our customers will also use this page to create their own video. So they'll use it sort of as a model for creating their own video, because they may not use the exact same fields in the timesheet that this example video uses. Not every client has the same form. Some people hide pay codes, some people hide tasks, some people hide project title, et cetera. So it varies. And then, of course, we have a link to some technical details about timesheets in the help documentation. Okay, so that was the video on timesheet entry. Another great link is how can users reset their own passwords? So we know that admins can set passwords for people and reset them if people forget their password, but how can users reset their own passwords? So powerful page here, how they can change it if they know it, how they can change or set it if they forgot their password, how you can require or force a password reset, property settings that are involved. So this is a really powerful page, not only for our new customers, but certainly for our existing customers who might want to enable this feature. And down at the bottom, links to the help docs on the password reset. And so again, as you can see, I'm just covering these pages at a high level. We're not going into too much detail on any one page because we have a lot to get through. Accounts payable instructional guides, very similar to what we saw with the AR instructional guide. This is very meaningful if you want to print this out as one PDF with all of these pages included, or the electronic version, of course, as you prefer. We see different styles. Some people like to work from paper on their desk. Some people like to work from the electronic version. So this has been a very popular guide for people to use in either case. So accounts payable instructional guides. And procedures for financials end of month close. So if we go over to that one, we will see it's very similar. So it has those child pages related to end of month close topics, such as bank reconciliations or reconciling accrued leave, performing cost pool calculations, generating financial statements, etc. Remember that if you wanted to export these as a PDF, maybe you want 8 of these, but not the whole list, you can certainly, in that space export feature, check the pages that you want and get only the ones you want versus having to get everything on this list. So that's a really nice feature. So again, popular page that we want to make sure you're aware of, procedures for financial end of month close. Related is procedures for financials end of year processing and a webinar on end of year processing. So we have end of month, but then there's always some things that we need to do at the end of the year. Okay. Why doesn't a project appear in my timesheet? We get this a lot. Like everyone is going to hear this at some point, either an admin or a project manager or someone is going to hear this. Hey, I don't see that project in my timesheet. Why don't I see it? Well, there are a number of reasons. It might be that they don't have an assignment, or maybe it was there and they moved it out, or maybe it's requiring certain dates and the dates in the timesheet aren't appropriate for that task or project. So many different reasons, and this is a really great resource to have at your fingertips if someone ever comes to you and says, hey, I need to put in my time and submit my timesheet, but I can't find that project. So again, popular and powerful. This, why doesn't a project appear in my timesheet? Okay, the ICE model. For some of our, especially financials, GovCons, this ICE model is very useful, this ICE model KC topic. So this helps you use the data in Unanet to populate a workbook with the required values based upon which schedule you're needing to populate, typically a tab per schedule, I believe, approximately. So this walks through all of the different ways. We have a sample workbook out there that you can use as a starting point, as well as instructions on how to create every tab and an overview of what each schedule is. So it walks you through creating that whole process. I'm trying to get down to the bottom of the page, and something's blocking my view. There we go. So down at the bottom, we actually have also a webinar on the incurred cost electronically, or ICE model. And then you link to the government page on ICE and that starting place workbook if you don't already have one. So we just want to make sure everyone is aware of this page. If you have the need to produce this document. Okay, next up, something that is not necessarily known by all of our customers, but we do want to make sure everyone is aware of it. Can I hide menu options? So let's say, I see that plus expense and that plus request on my expense dashboard, but I don't want people creating expense requests. It's just confusing the process. You can hide that. You can hide the ability for people to edit their own skills. Some companies love that. They're very open and they want people to put in their own skills. Some companies don't. They want to authorize those skill associations. So you can also hide the skill option in the preferences menu. You could hide plus project. This is a great one, especially for customers who need to be DCAA compliant. When you create manually in Unanet a new project, there are certain default settings that Unanet defines, such as whether future time is allowed, whether people can sign themselves up to charge to the project, things that are really no-nos in terms of DCAA. So via hiding project and only creating projects via copy project, you can control what those default settings are. You can enable alerts to project leads. You can hide credit card information. So anywhere you see a menu, pretty much anywhere you see a menu in Unanet, you can hide those based upon role. So this is a really powerful resource. And it links, of course, to the help docs, which gives us all the technical details about how to hide, which is or display information, which is the menu.xml files. A recent topic that has gotten a lot of hits lately is our topic on NIST SP 800-171, how Unanet helps support those compliance goals. Specific to multi-factor authentication, ID and authentication controls, cyber incident reporting, and data encryption. So this is a nice entry, and it also links to, in this case, not the help, because there's really nothing right now specific to the help, but to that NIST special publication and a webinar that Unanet did recently on NIST. Okay, and then we have three process flows that I'd like to show you. One is in our AR guide. So this is a nice visual on how the data flows from an AR perspective. We also have one for AP. And again, you have all these links available to you, so you can study these diagrams in detail to your heart's content after this webinar. And then we also have a system, Unanet system-wide data flow diagram. So this one's really powerful, including anything from vendor invoices, customer invoices, what impacts the general ledger, how our cost pools tie in, timesheets, expense reports. The only thing that's missing from this diagram is assignments and plans, which I hear are going to be added in the release that comes out with purchasing. So anyway, this is a really nice diagram about the Unanet system data flow. So just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that we have these nice diagrams for AP, for AR, and actually for 99% of the system. Okay. Second to last topic is DCAA. This KC page talks about 7 properties related to DCAA compliance. So you can read in detail about all these properties later. There's some other settings that you'll want to consider in the reminders that can help you, for example, maintain compliance on minimum hour or daily time entry. And assignments and so forth, and then links to the help docs. The help doc page on DCAA is really fantastic, and if you haven't visited it, please do, because it's really powerful. I'll go there in a second. And then we have a webinar. We do regular webinars on DCAA audits, which is nice to take a look at. So I'm going to go over now to the help docs page on DCAA, which goes through every aspect that's required by DCAA and how Unanet addresses it. Some things are system-wide, and some things, of course, as you probably know, are project-specific, as we just mentioned, like not allowing future time and not allowing anyone to sign themselves up for any project. So, two really powerful resources. Lastly, I want to go to the help docs on admin import. So often we find that people want to do some imports, maybe making mass updates to email addresses or roles or projects or budgets. So admin import allows you to do that, and the help docs contain all the details about what's required. So let's look, for example, at projects. This is going to give me every single column, which in this case is a row on this page, is a column in the actual file, and what the requirements are for that column and how you can use that column to maybe do renames or updates or replaces. So the help docs contain all this detailed information about technical details about requirements for import, and imports are really powerful. Also, you want to be careful, like when you're importing people or time, you want to be careful because you could be generating adjustments. So just caveat there, make sure you know what you're doing before you do an import, because it could impact your system significantly. Okay, and then if you would like to give us any feedback on either the help or the KC, maybe you see a typo, maybe you see a better opportunity to link, maybe you have a suggestion for new topic that you'd like to see content created on. Maybe you see an opportunity to have better searching abilities. Maybe you searched on a certain term and couldn't find out what you wanted to find easily. Please let us know. We love getting feedback on both of those bodies of documentation. You can send us an email at support@unanet.com. And I think that's it. Kim, do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Ellen. We do have some questions excuse me, regarding the data flow diagram that you just presented. Can you export or print that as well?
You can, yes. You can absolutely print it from your browser. You could download it as well and then print it. Okay. Yeah, it's a KC page like all the other KC pages.
Fantastic. Then I have 3 more questions. I think that we have time for 3 questions still. One question that came up is, do the mobile timesheets that you were talking about before, do they work on any device, including Android?
They do, and in fact, on that page, there are instructions for iPhone and instructions for Android, so it works on both.
And can you bookmark it on your phone, or like somehow, it's not an app, correct?
You can make it look like an app.
Okay.
Yeah, so on your iPhone, like maybe you have an app for Waze or an app for Facebook or whatever, you can make it look like an app. So on each employee's phone, they click on the app and it opens up into Unanet timesheet.
That's really cool, thank you. Ellen, are we going to have the links that you showed, are they going to be available after the webinar?
They are. In fact, there's a link to this page, which is publicly available. This is the customer webinar, and we talked about the differences between the 2 systems. We did an overview. We talked about how to share links and PDFs, and we went through several popular topics. This page is public on the KC, and the link to this page is actually in the PowerPoint that we're going to be sharing with everyone.
Okay, excellent. And then I think we have time for one last question. Are there different versions of the Knowledge Center available depending on license?
There is one version, it's a really good question. There's one version of the KC. So it incorporates all functionality, the full functionality that's available in Unanet. So financials, full general ledger, AR, AP, et cetera, as well as the portfolio resource planning and resource forecasting, as well as time and expense. So it is all one. It's not specific to license.
Correct. Okay, and then the last question was about if we're going to find this, where we'll find this webinar to provide to other admin users that were not able to attend. Well, is it going to be added to the KC on this page?
It will be in the KC and either on this page or on a page next door.
Okay, and in about a week.
I think that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Great, fantastic. I think that's all the questions. If we didn't answer any of your questions, we will be responding to them shortly. This is your customer success management team. If you had any questions, please reach out to your customer success manager. If for some reason you don't know who your CSM is, you may email the central email inbox of csm@unanet.com, and your customer success manager will contact you. Ellen, thank you so much for presenting this very informative webinar today, as well as for the Q&A. We'd also like to thank you for joining us. And the webinar presentation, as we mentioned before, will be available within approximately a week. For those questions we could not answer, you will see responses to those shortly. Thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.